In Los Angeles today, defense attorneys began their closing arguments in a child molestation case that's attracted national attention during a sordid marathon trial. Charges against 5 co-defendants have been dropped because of insufficient evidence, leaving a mother and her son, both former preschool teachers, as defendants. But whatever the verdict, authorities see the case as a symbol of an increasing national tragedy that's become a national scandal. Jerry Bowen reports.
California's McMartin preschool scandal. It began as the most notorious child abuse case in American history, with charges that hundreds of youngsters had been sexually molested at the now-defunct nursery.
Please raise your right hand.
31 months and $13 million taxpayer dollars later, it's become the nation's longest, most expensive criminal trial ever, and fair or not, a symbol of every parent's worst fear.
It had an enormous impact initially, a recognition that the problem of out-of-home sexual abuse was a real one.
In response to McMartin and similar cases, scores of states and cities enacted tough screening requirements for preschool workers. 25 states expanded parents' rights, making unannounced visits to preschools a legal right. But in the 5 years since McMartin hit the headlines, surveys show the problem of child abuse has continued to worsen, and that the nightmare of physical, sexual, or emotional abuse is still far more likely to occur in a child's home than anywhere else.
Child Protective Services.
Okay, uses drugs and alcohol.
Okay, what, undressed? Both of them being undressed?
Last year, there were 2,300,000 reports of child abuse nationwide, up 3% from the year before, and half of all the reports were substantiated.
He eventually ended up saying, I'm going to drop the kids off at the mall like you drop kitties and doggies off.
Experts suspect much more is occurring than is reported, but what's known is grim enough. Just over half the cases involve neglect, abandonment. 1/4 involve physical abuse, with the growth category being fatalities, up nearly 40% since 1985. That's 3 children dying each day in this country from maltreatment, a level of violence which social workers link directly to parents using crack and cocaine.
Kinds of abuse that we thought we really had a handle on 5 years ago, and we find out today that we don't have a handle on it, and in fact the problem is worse.
The problem is so bad that in 43 states it's becoming routine to review child death cases to absolutely rule out foul play.
The good news is we're doing more. The bad news is the better we open our eyes, the more clearly we see, the more garbage we're finding.
Give the child.
The problem is so pervasive that court-ordered parenting classes have become a standard tool in the effort to prevent abuse.
I don't see where their changes have made any effect.
But the nightmare continues, and Mary Creekmore relives it every day. A battered wife, she was a reluctant accomplice in the 1986 death of her son Eli. Her ex-husband was imprisoned for life for the murder, which followed months of abuse. And Washington State, where the crime occurred, adopted a more aggressive child protection program, which is now a model for the nation. But even the experts agree there's no guarantee it would have saved little Eli.
One woman said that someday you're gonna die and you're gonna go up to heaven and you're gonna see your little boy and he's gonna ask you, why, Mommy, why didn't you do anything? And then I was gonna go to hell.
For hundreds of thousands of children, a very real hell still waits every day, just behind the front door at home. Jerry Bowen, CBS News, Los Angeles.
A Chicago judge today barred the National Transportation Safety Board from further testing of the engine of that United Airlines DC-10 that crash-landed last July in Sioux City, Iowa. The accident claimed the lives of 112 of the 296 people aboard. The judge, acting on a lawyer's complaint, agreed that the safety board testing should be stopped because General Electric, which made the engine, was involved in the test process. He said an independent tester should check the engine. The safety board plans to appeal today's ruling. The flight of East Germans to the West picked up again today as 125 refugees flew from Poland to West Germany. They were among nearly 2,000 East Germans who had taken refuge at the West German Embassy in Warsaw, Poland. The rest are expected to follow over the next few weeks. A steady stream of refugees also continues to leave via Hungary. more than 1,400 in the last 24 hours. About 40,000 East Germans have taken that route in the last 5 months since Hungary cut away the barbed wire on its border with Austria. Anthony Mason has been covering the changing face of communism all through these months. And he followed up by following some of the first refugees across the border, and tonight he reports on what they found in the West.
Watch 25-year-old Ines Hartmann walk through the streets of West Germany, wide-eyed and smiling. It's difficult to remember the fearful face that 2 months ago hid in a field near the Hungarian border. That day in August, Ines Hartmann ran for her life. Through the gap between the border guards, she slipped into the West. East German friends told her she was foolish to go, that she'd never find work, that she'd sleep in the streets. They were wrong. She'd never met her Western cousins until she showed up on their doorstep in Middle Grundau, but they have taken her in. The local water board has offered her a job drawing structural plans. And instead of culture shock, Ines has experienced a kind of cultural exhilaration. At first, she says, I would speak softly or whisper behind my hands. My uncle said, speak freely, you're not in East Germany anymore. It took me a while to understand that. When Hungary finally threw open its borders for East Germans at midnight on September 11th, Oliver Wolf and his girlfriend Juliana were among the first to officially cross. We knew we had each other, he says, but not much else. You'll find Oliver now on the production line of the Opel automobile factory near Frankfurt. His skills as a mechanic got him a job as a welder. Juliana's working too at a fashion boutique. The West German government loaned the couple money to buy furniture, and they've set themselves up in a one-bedroom apartment.
We have a little room now, yes, but we have work, and we are happy as it's okay.
The hundreds of East Germans still arriving every day in the refugee camps are met by job offers tacked to every available surface. For most, the worry is not so much what they'll find in the West, but what they've left in the East. For Ines Hartmann, it's her Dresden childhood, her brother now in the East German army, and her mother. The one who worries, she says, is my mother, because mothers always worry. After Juliana left, her father was visited by the East German police and told not to contact her. Juliana says she's homesick for her family, but not for her homeland.
We are happy that we are here, and we never go back, never.
Letters are the refugees' last links with home, and Ines still writes her friends every day. I tell them, she says, that I'm well, that I'm sorry they're not here, and that it's good to be free. Anthony Mason, CBS News, Frankfurt.
Changing times for a top opinion maker. U.S. Supreme Court Justice Thurgood Marshall says he has decided to start using the term Afro-American in his written opinions. Justice Marshall told the Baltimore Sun, and I quote, I spent most of my life trying to get Negro spelled with a capital N. By the time I got that done, everyone was using black with a small b. End of quotation. Another case in point tonight about trying to change stereotypes and attitudes. Correspondent Bob McNamara has found a story on a Mississippi water fountain and the flow of history.
Deep in Dixie, one of segregation's last relics still stands, a water fountain. The word colored still visible through the plaster that hasn't covered the past.
That's sad because they're trying to preserve something that is over and done with.
Though the signs of segregation were outlawed 25 years ago by the Civil Rights Act, Ellisville, Mississippi's colored courthouse fountain and a vandalized twin for whites have lingered, gathering leaves unused for years. Mississippi's NAACP wants them removed.
We're going to continue with this until these fountains are removed, ever how long it takes.
The issue has boiled old fears and anger.
Y'all down here to start trouble, and if that's what you're looking for, you can damn quick get it. Every time this nigger business slacks up a little bit, here y'all come with these things, stir it up again.
Mississippi State Historical Museum has wanted the fountains for a civil rights exhibit for years, but county officials say no.
Well, it seems like in Jones County that the colored folks are the ones that are inclined to be insulted, if you will, because I haven't had any white people to say they were agitated by a white being on the fountains.
With a 20% black population that's mostly poor, Jones County, Mississippi is drowsy Dixie. And in the big piney timber country, with more signs of an old South than a new one, old times here really aren't forgotten.
We don't destroy the history books just because it has negative things that we wouldn't do today. That's part of our heritage that we learn from. Just like the Confederate soldier monument there. We need things like that to remind us that we're better today than we were then.
If you want to show some progress, get rid of the mess and put one fountain out there that says all men are created equal, and that would be good enough for the progress.
For Ellisville, the fountain issue is becoming dividing and tiring.
You can take them and put them to CBS headquarters if you want to, one on each side of the door. All I want you to do is go away and leave us alone, let us work it out.
They are museum pieces mostly now, the visible barriers between blacks and whites. They are from a sad chapter of American history, an era that for yet another generation here has not closed. Bob McNamara, CBS News, Ellisville, Mississippi.
And that's part of our world tonight. Dan Rather for the CBS Evening News. See you tomorrow. Good night.